Chair, you are live.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and welcome to the House Energy and Digital Infrastructure Committee. It's Tuesday, January 14th, and we're gathering today just for a brief committee discussion. We're going to start talking a little bit about the next couple weeks and how we're going to do our work going forward before adjourning probably at 1:40. So we've got about 30 minutes. As always, we're going to start by introducing ourselves quickly around the table, and our committee policy also is that all guests introduce themselves as well with their name and who they're representing. So I'm Representative Kathleen James from Bennington 4.
Scott Campbell from St. Johnsbury, Calvary, Essex District.
Richard Bailey from Lamoille 2.
Chris Morrow, Wyndham, Windsor, Bennington District.
Michael Southworth, Caledonia 2.
Christopher Howland, Rutland 4.
Dara Torrey, Washington 2.
Graham Klepner, Chittenden 13.
Laura Civilian, Wyndham 2.
Great. Jack?
Jack Locker, Committee Assistant.
Great. And our guests?
Gwen Zakoff, I'm the lobbyist for the Vermont Community Broadband Board.
Gabrielle Molina, I work with the two electric cooperatives of Vermont Electric and Washington Electric, as well as the regional transmission operator ISO New England.
Dylan Zucki with Leonine Public Affairs, a firm that represents a number of folks that will be interested in this committee's jurisdiction, but in particular work with Green Mountain Power, Vermont Gas Systems, and New England Connectivity and Telecommunications Association.
Great. Thanks, everybody. All right. So we had an initial organizational meeting last week, started to talk a little bit about just how we work together as a group. So just wanted to remind everybody, I thought this went very well, but when we're having a committee meeting, if you could raise your hands and I'll call on you. One thing I noticed last week, it happens in committee, is that sometimes our witnesses start to call on people, and it's supposed to be the other way. So raise your hand. We don't want to put them in that position, right? So just give me a look. It's not going to be a big formal thing, but just give me a look and get your finger up and I'll call on you. And that way we can make sure that everybody has a chance to get their questions asked and answered. Representative Torrey has offered to lead a small informal work group of folks who are going to work on our committee guiding principles. So if you want to help out with that, let her know. And if you want to see great guiding principles on this very floor, the Healthcare Committee and the Human Services Committee have fantastic guiding principles. And I just think it's worth all our time. So Representative Torrey will do some work with whoever wants to help out. And when she's got a draft, we'll all have a chance to chime in. And I believe we'll vote on them and then post them in our room. Agendas and scheduling. So we are making great progress in getting our scheduling process down to and the art and science that it is. So in general, I mentioned this last week, and I want to make sure folks really know how important this is that as we start to take a look at bills or talk about topics where you have a particular interest, make sure to let me know if you have someone you really want to hear from, and we will absolutely try to fit them in. It should be someone who has some expertise, on the policy topic that we're talking about. But if there's somebody from your district or somebody that you've worked with in your professional life, and you want to toss them out to the leadership team as a suggested witness, please let us know and try to let us know early. The one thing that I'm very quickly figuring out is that scheduling is very challenging. People are busy. People, we're trying to fill specific slots. People don't always aren't available on the day that we have time, and so get those names to us, early and often, and we'll try to make sure we hear from everybody and from a wide variety of perspectives as well. We're also going to be working on scheduling. It's sort of an ongoing thing, and we're going to be working on scheduling constantly and also on a very specific basis. So we're going to try to meet every Wednesday with Jack, and as a committee leadership team to have a scheduling meeting. You're welcome to be here or not, or just to make sure you get thoughts to us, by Wednesday for maybe the following week. And that will all culminate in the agenda. So we have an agenda up for this week. As you saw, I think I put in our group chat yesterday, whenever it was, hey, our agenda's up. We'll try to have them up a little bit earlier than that, but we were waiting to kind of see this week take shape. So I thought we could take a minute, and Jack, I didn't put you totally on the spot, but do you have the ability to share our committee page and just show folks where to find stuff on our committee page?
Yes, I do. It's set up. There we go. I clicked it once, clicked it again.
Great. So in the interest of building shared expertise, I want to make sure that all of our committee members know how to use our committee page. So you guys have all been on it, I'm sure, at this point. But there's our membership to the left, and then down below, information for witnesses is just a handy handout that, Jack, did you prepare that, or is that a standard?
This is standard.
Okay. One thing I haven't looked at this carefully to see, does it require or recommend that people submit written testimony or have like a PowerPoint?
In my training, if the witness is going to bring materials that they would like to present, they should send that to me in advance.
Okay.
So then when they do speak, I can put it on our committee page site, so then it can be accessed down here and attached to the witness name, the topic, and the date that it was discussed.
Okay. To the extent that you as a committee assistant can encourage people to come with written testimony or some sort of presentation that they can walk us through, I think that would be appreciated. I learned a lot from our first testimony that we took last Friday, and I wanted to have, the DPS handout. I wanted to look at it on the screen, I wanted to see it presented. So we'll try to encourage people to prepare written testimony. As people submit stuff to our committee, Jack will send it out to all of you, right? So there's no information that's presented to our committee that isn't immediately shared with all of us. So, you'll be getting stuff in your legislative email, and then it will be posted on the committee page. So as you go, Jack, let's click on the agenda and talk a little bit about this week's agenda. So one thing that I've learned and known, but I've really had it underscored for me today, is that our agenda is going to be constantly shifting. People cancel. We hear that we need to take up such and such, tomorrow. Somebody gets sick. And so that agenda that's posted on our committee page is going to be changing all the time. One thing that you can count on is that once we get up and running here, after, what I imagine is going to be a slower couple weeks with some all-house trainings and some gaps, is that we will be trying to be here and in committee taking testimony and moving forward our work during all the open blocks. So, between 9 and 4, you can assume that if we're not on the floor, we're going to be in committee. So for this week, why don't we look a little bit about what we've got planned for this week. We're doing our discussion and planning right now. We'll adjourn so that the chairs can go to that NCSL training today. Then tomorrow, we've got some testimony lined up to prepare a little bit for Thursday. So you'll see that this week informally is kind of energy week in our committee. The reason for that is very specific. I know we have all heard quite a bit about the Affordable Heat Act and the Clean Heat Standard, and the Public Utility Commission has been working for 18 months to develop proposed rules, to prepare an economic analysis, It sounds to me like they're going to have some recommendations or prepare an alternative for us. And those materials are all due to the legislature tomorrow, and they're running on time. So the long-awaited final delivery from the PUC on the Affordable Heat Act materials, that's happening tomorrow. So we'll all get that in our emails. We'll have a night to look it over. And then we have a joint hearing scheduled on Thursday morning with Senate Natural Resources. And during that hearing, we're going to first hear from Legislative Counsel. So Leg Counsel is going to walk us through Act 18 and make sure that we start by all understanding the bill. What did the bill say? What did the bill not say? What's required of the legislature, if anything, going forward? So we're going to walk through the bill, and we will take questions. I believe we've decided, I've been working with Senator Watson to make sure we all understand how the day is going to be formatted. I think that we'll hear from Leg Counsel and ask clarifying questions at that time of Leg Counsel. Then we'll take a little break, and then Chair McNamara from the PUC is going to come in and present all of their work, and we'll take questions then from Chair McNamara. So why a joint hearing? It was a very intentional decision on our part, on the part of Senator Watson and I, because I think everybody knows, it's no surprise to anybody, that the conversation over the Clean Heat Standard and the Affordable Heat Act has been much discussed. It's been very high profile. It's been controversial. There's been a lot of political rhetoric about it, during the campaign. And so I thought it would be really important as policymakers to get everybody in the same room at the same time to hear the same information and be able to all ask our questions at once and have everybody hear the answer. So I hope it's useful. So to prepare for that a little bit, it's not like we have a ton of time to prepare, but backing up to Wednesday, we're going to try to at least get a little bit of information under our belts, and we'll hear from the Climate Action Office. That's just going to be an introductory, hello, we're the Climate Action Office. This is what we do. This is our mission. We're going to try to have that be much more introductory than our testimony with DPS turned out to be. So we're trying to be very clear with the agencies as they come in that we're a new committee. We're not familiar with your office. We don't know your work. Can you please start by telling us who you are and what you do? So we'll do that with the Climate Action Office. We'll do that with the Agency of Natural Resources. We'll take a break. Then we will be moving into executive session for the security briefing that I'm sure we all wish we'd had before our fire drill. Well, actually not fire drill, before our unplanned building evacuation last week. So we'll go into executive session and we'll hear about security procedures here in the State House. Then when we come back out, Leg Counsel will walk us through the Global Warming Solutions Act. And again, it'll be just to walk us through the bill. You see these bills and it's page after page of statutory language. And it's a great chance to have Leg Counsel translate for us. Here's the bill. This is what the bill did. This is what the bill says. We can ask questions. Then we'll be on the floor. Then we have our committee hearing, our joint hearing on Thursday. Honestly, folks, I'm sure the media will be there. I didn't want this to be a surprise to anyone. It's why I'm trying to take time to talk about this now. My guess is that it could be a crowded room, and that's fine. Everything we do is supposed to be transparent, and I just didn't want our new folks to be surprised. Yes.
Madam Chair, I would just, as a veteran of this room,
Yeah.
and high-profile legislation in this room. I would just like to thank you for arranging a larger room. But also note for the record that this room, I have seen 32 people, you might have been in here, in this room at once for testimony ago. So,
Scary.
people are excited about those.
If I can add on to that, I brought in a carbon dioxide detector, which is sitting on the committee assistance table there. It says 1050 on it or something like that on it now. It will start whining at 1200. So it's just kind of interest to see, just we all exhale carbon dioxide. Of course, the more people in the room, the more likely we're going to have excess carbon dioxide. So this might actually argue for perhaps getting a larger room. We'll see.
Thank you, Representative Campbell.
But I had a couple other things I wanted to mention too.
Please go. I know, I've been yakking on. I have so many thoughts in my head that I want to convey to all of us.
The agenda changes all the time, as Chair James just said. And the thing to keep reminding yourself is to keep refreshing the page. I think that if you refresh the page with the agenda on it, it will update the agenda. But you also should remember to update the committee page on that page, because things change all the time. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're looking at an agenda, and then the thing that you're being told you have to do isn't on there. Well, that's because you have to refresh the page. Other question I had: do we know what time the PUC's report is going to drop tomorrow?
I don't.
Anybody know? I was wondering about getting a hard copy or something to take home and read in bed.
I don't know what time.
I also do not know what time, Madam Chair, but I also would enjoy a hard copy.
Same.
Unless it's 300 pages long.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jack, if you could arrange for that, even if it is actually 300 pages long. The hard copy.
I wouldn't be surprised if everybody in the room would
Yeah,
want
if
one.
I can get can I speak?
Yep. Oh, of course. I'm sorry. Yes, Jack.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I need a show of hands if you would like a hard copy of that report. No? Okay.
Not yet.
All right.
I'll read it online.
7 of those.
Okay. Then we have just an overview of Vermont's energy landscape. Some really useful, I think that's back to 101. On Friday morning, we are hoping to have Legislative Council come in, again, Ellen, and we'll be having we have, I believe, 3 Legislative Council who will be staffing our committee. So Ellen Chakowski is Energy and Environment, right? Maria Royal is Telecoms and Transmission. And then I believe there's someone different who is State IT, right?
Yes, I got an email.
Rick?
Yes.
Super. So I don't know if we'll be able to get all of them in Friday morning, but just so you know, coming up, we're going to have Ellen and our 2 other attorneys come in, and they will walk us through key bills that the legislature passed regarding our jurisdiction last year. It's really helpful. So like the renewable energy standard, there's a bill around residential
Energy codes.
energy codes. There was a miscellaneous PUC bill. So we'll have the opportunity for Ledge Council to come in, walk us through those recent bills, and tell us if there are any reports due or pending or soon to be delivered to our committee about those topics. We'll do that with each of our areas. So you see, it's starting to feel more orderly to me, anyway, at least. So Energy Week this week, really simply because of the PUC report. So let's focus on that this week. We're also going to have a review of the Public Records Act. Legislative Council is going to come in and make sure that we all understand how the Public Records Act applies to us as elected officials regarding requests for our emails or other correspondence. I think it's important that everybody on the committee know, hey, you're an elected official now and you could be subject to a Freedom of Information Act request, and here's what applies and here's what happens when that happens, and et cetera. So we'll all just that's just welcome to the legislature type stuff. Questions about this week? Okay. So Jack, let's go back to our page. Great. So you can see our live stream link. Why don't you show them? Oh yeah. Well, do we have a YouTube page up and ready to roll?
Yeah.
So there we are. That's our YouTube page, and that's where all of our hearings will appear. They live stream on that page, and then they get archived as well. We can go back now, Jack. And then you can see if you scroll, or if you go across that tab, Bills in and Out of Committee. And I hope you guys don't think this is too rudimentary, but it really, as a first-term legislator, it took me a long time to figure out how to use my committee page, but yet it's a really important tool. So maybe that was just me, but that's where you can see it will start to pile up here, all of the bills that have been referred to our committee. We only have 2 so far. On the Out of Committee tab, well, you're going to see nothing, but those will be bills that we voted out of committee. Referred to committee, what's that, like limbo land? What's the difference between referred to and in?
All of these bills
Yeah.
have been referred.
Yeah.
Once it's voted out, it will not be in committee any longer. So referred will be every bill that has come here.
How's that different from in?
Once we vote a bill out, it will no longer be in committee. It will be out of committee. So referred will always be the bills that always came here.
So is the in tab. That's what I'm trying.
No, in is current.
They'll stay in referred forever.
They'll stay in referred forever. Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
So referred stays forever. Got it.
In's
From
just
in
active.
to out. Okay. Interesting what we learn when we ask questions. And then sponsored by committee. That's a nice little tab because that shows bills that we as a team decide that we want to introduce and develop as a committee. And so I hope that you'll see some good work there, because that means we took testimony, we dove into something, we decided that we should do a committee bill that tackles this or that subject. And how that happens is that we take a lot of testimony, we start having committee discussions about what we want to see in that bill. Legislative council will draft it, we'll start walking through the drafts. So sponsored by committee is a great tab for our work that we do together.
I could amplify that. So that is as distinct from a bill that is introduced by any member. And normally when a member introduces a bill, then it gets presented and referred to a committee. But committee bills are bills that don't have a single member that introduces them. They are they start in a committee rather than as a bill submitted by a member. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes, Representative Sedillo.
Yes, and they often, I'm not sure what the deadline is, but it's much, much, much later. So there'll be a deadline for when we can introduce bills as individual members, but committee bills and committee amendments can be sponsored much, much later in the session.
Mm-hmm.
So as we're learning, if there's something that the committee needs to act on past the deadline.
And then back to documents and handouts, please, Jack. So you can see fun tabs under here that will start to be populated as we start taking testimony on bills, having reports submitted to us, hearing from witnesses, etc. So I don't know if there's anything even there yet, Jack. So really, it's a public record of our work that we can all use to help ourselves stay organized, but that any Vermonter can take a look at and see what we're doing. Okay, so moving forward then, so if this is Energy Week kind of by necessity because of the PUC thing, I had mentioned this in our earlier meeting, but I think it's really important that we try to build knowledge together. So we're going to spend the next couple weeks really trying to take introductory, grounding, baseline testimony from key agencies, key stakeholders in our areas of jurisdiction. So really trying to like set a baseline. In the perfect world, we were hoping to have next week be devoted to learning as much as we can about state IT. So our state IT systems, because I think that's going to be a very rich area for us to dive into, and something that we're going to want to learn a lot about, and something that we may, as we start to learn and take testimony, we may find that we want to do a committee bill because we need to do X or Y around state IT. So we haven't started scheduling testimony yet, but we'll try to start with the basic agencies and players. I will probably be reaching out to all the committee chairs to say, hey, the agencies that your committee has jurisdiction on, are there IT areas in that agency that you want to put on our radar? So we're going to start gathering some information about our state IT system. So if you have thoughts on that, or things you want to hear about, make sure you let us know. And then the week after that, we thought we might try to jump to learning about telecoms, broadband, and start building some knowledge there. So that's about as far as we've gotten. We're not under any kind of time pressure at this point at all. So, and I remembered one thing that Representative Morrow had asked me to address, so thank you. Rep Morrow is very interested in self-service, and I mentioned to you guys, if you've got an area of our committee jurisdiction that you really want to dive into, take the lead, be the informal liaison to another committee that has shared jurisdiction, really help us find witnesses or identify topics, please let me know. And Representative Morrow hasn't volunteered for this, but he has shown an early interest in self-service. And so he's been reaching out to ask questions of folks from DPS, or to follow up on things he's reading and seeing. And he asked me if I needed, for any reason, to be copied on all of that. No, I do not. Do your work, do your research, and keep us posted when you find out something that you really think we should schedule testimony on, or that you really want to make sure we take a look at, or that you see as an emerging thing, like, hey, is this on your radar? And then that's where it enters the hopper for scheduling and for trying to have some sort of orderly, I laugh because I know it's not going to work out this way, but some sort of orderly progression to our work. So the answer might be, that's great, let's put it on the list. We're going to try to get there in 2-3 weeks. Or we're not ready for that yet, thank you so much, but we're going to talk, there may be topics we don't even have time to get to this year. I don't know yet. Representative Torrey?
Question. I don't remember seeing a presentation by the digital services folks. Was that because it wasn't part of our jurisdiction?
We need to get them in.
And I'm just wondering if last year did digital live somewhere else? Did IT?
It was GovOps.
Oh, it was in GovOps. Okay, I forgot that.
Yeah. So now it's here.
It was here before.
And it was here before.
Okay.
And then it went to GovOps just for that one interrupted biennium in the great arc of our committee. We took a break. have I forgotten anything and or questions, comments, discussion? We don't have to go off right this very minute. Yeah.
Chair, is there a time frame when bills get referred to committee that we need to address them in some fashion?
Yes. So I guess I'll start with the concept of crossover. So, one underlying, process thing in the legislature is a series of deadlines called crossover. And they're kind of, they fall right around town meeting, like the week or two after town meeting. And that is the date by which a policy bill that doesn't have any funding in it whatsoever needs to leave its committee of origin or its committee of referral and start moving toward the floor. And a week after that is a similar deadline for bills that have money in them. So there's a policy crossover deadline and a money bill crossover deadline. And so you'll see the pace of work really start to pick up as, as February moves on, as we start to move toward crossover, because on one level, bills that we don't vote out of this committee by crossover are dead for the biennium. And the Senate has the same deadline, so the Senate needs to get their bills to us, and we need to get our bills to the House. That said.
For the year.
Yeah, for the year.
Not the biennium.
Not for did I say biennium? For the year. The only time bills truly die is at the end of the biennium. So a bill that we don't vote out this year, we could take up next year. So the first year has a lot more breathing room. That said, there are many other ways. That is not the only way to get legislation or a piece of policy under consideration. There are amendments. There are committee bills, which have a later deadline. There's, gosh, we didn't get it done. Let's see if we can get the Senate to do it and send it back over to us. So there, you will discover there's so many avenues to get the work done. But the first and most concrete thing are those crossover deadlines. And again, I'm really glad, Rep. Sibilia, thanks for pointing out. We really have 2 years. But anything that needs to happen this year, we would want to be trying to get it out of our committee by crossover. Rep. Sibilia, and then something.
So this is going to be an on-the-spot question, but perhaps you will not want to answer it right now, because I don't know if you've thought about this yet, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I don't know if we will have a policy about, or if you have a policy about what bills come off of the quote-unquote wall. So that may be.
That's a great question.
A process question you want to go over with the committee at some point, or not.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I don't have an answer to that, but that's a great question to get answered. So TBD on that.
Madam Chair, just like to go along with that, and is there a way that we could come to a consensus as a group to prioritize which bills we want to look at to get off of the board?
Yeah. Yes, we're going to have to do that. And I'm sorry I haven't gone there yet in my mind. But in previous committees I've served on, we've taken committee time to kind of like look at all the bills on the wall and just discuss, take a little straw poll and see which bills have a lot of momentum behind them.
So I know that it is the chair's prerogative. So my question was really, I don't know if you know what your prerogative will be.
I don't.
Yeah, that was really.
I need to figure that out. Yeah, thank you. Yes, it is the chair's prerogative. And also, I don't feel like it should just be up to me. So I need to think about that and figure out how we're gonna sort that out. In general, there are two ways in which I've seen bills come off the wall. One is to take testimony, walk through it, see what it is. So we have legislative council come in, we have them walk us through the bill, we can ask our questions about the language, we take some testimony, and we decide at that point, like, okay, this is great, this is promising, we've got the votes to get it out of committee, let's take more testimony, let's move it. And then there are bills that may be of interest or have the fervent support of a couple of committee members, but not the rest of the committee. And so that's the part I need to figure out, right? Because that's going to pertain to H16, perhaps. Like, I feel like on H16, we're not quite there yet. So, and what I mean by we're not quite there yet is that I think we're going to learn quite a bit on Thursday about what remains, right? So we passed the Affordable Heat Act. The PUC went and drafted the rules. The rules can't go into effect unless there's an affirmative vote by the legislature, which means drafting a whole new bill, taking testimony, passing it out of committee, passing the House, moving to the Senate. It has to pass the Senate. So one of the areas that I have some questions on is what work even remains from the Affordable Heat Act? Is there anything even there? You know what I mean? So is there anything left? So those are some of the questions I want to ask Ledge Council at our hearing on Thursday.
Thank you.
So, but thanks for that question. So I will think on that, and it'll be something we'll have to discuss as a committee too. How we decide what to come off the wall, because at this point this seems really manageable. But believe me, we will not be able to take every bill off the wall. We just won't. It's not possible. We don't have time. There are bills that aren't, in any given biennium, 1,800, 1,900 bills get introduced and like 90 become law. So we will not be able to take every bill off the wall. But I want to make sure that folks have a chance to hear about the issues that matter the most to them.
I have a couple of thoughts also.
Yeah.
One is, I believe the deadline for members submitting a bill request is the end of the month, maybe January 30th. Does anybody know that for sure? Yes, January 30th. Okay, I just thought I would make that known. And the other point that Madam Chair has alluded to is how fast things go, or how much we don't have time to pick up because things go really fast. Seems like we have 4.5 months, all kinds of time. But for the new members, it goes really, really fast. It can be very hectic. So just be prepared for that.
Madam Chairman, it was mentioned 1:30 for what was referred to as short form bill.
Yes.
And then final preparation, I think, was February 20th, but my recollection may not be totally correct.
I think January.
Maybe we can ask Jack to get us
the
information.
Yeah.
So there's, a short form is just an idea without all the language asking Ledge Council. May I, Madam Chair?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
And there is a request date, and then there's also an approved date. So you're requesting from Ledge Council, you're getting in the queue with them, and then that second date will be, you have to sign off on it by then, so that it can be introduced in the House. So.
But the short form, just to amplify, the January 30th, I think, is for the full bill request. No, there was a long form. A short form is usually a few weeks later, maybe even several weeks later. And
Jack, can you give us that info?
Yeah, we should find out exactly what those dates are.
Yeah, and I'm sure the speaker will be sending updates to all of us with that information, but it'd be great to have Jack get his hands on that. So, Yes, and then I have to go.
Just to clarify what I'm getting, the dates for the long and the short form of bills that you would like to introduce, the dates for that?
Yeah.
A
Mhm.
request.
Yep, to request and whatever info, they have about, did the new members receive at your pre-session training information about, did you guys get a basic going over about how to, okay, that's what I figured. Mine's in my binder at home somewhere. So, all right, well, I hate to move us along, but, we are gonna need to adjourn, our meeting for the day so that we can get to our training. Okay? Jack, let us know when we're off live.